In the last 20 years, this school system has gained more than 30,000 kids. So if I bought a house 20 years ago in Montgomery County, how could you possibly not expect the possibility of going to a different school?
Montgomery County, Maryland is a very diverse county in the United States that boasts of being within the top 10% of public school systems nationwide. Despite this top school system has become part of an ongoing conflict. The school system is not equitable for minority and low-income students, and the people call for redistricting. However, other citizens of Montgomery County claim that redistricting could be a detriment to homeowners.
They think like, oh yeah, we'll just shift around the borders and that will just make things number-wise easier. But in reality, if you just gave everyone a quality school, no one would feel like I need to just go buy a house here to fix that issue.
However, this battle for education equality in the school system not only reflects on a local scale, but also on a national one. Education inequality is one of the worst issues impacting students across the nation.
A study from the Economic Policy Institute states that extensive research has conclusively demonstrated that children's social class is one of the most significant predictors, if not the single most significant predictor, of their educational success.
African American, Native American, and Latino students were taught in segregated schools as late as 1960s. These schools were funded at rates many times lower than those serving whites, and didn't have opportunities to pursue higher academics. Since 1970, efforts to make spending on schools equal and the desegregation of schools has narrowed the gap in academic success between African American students and white students. But the difference is still an issue.
Urban school zones in the United States are some of the places affected the most by this issue. Today, Black students graduate at a rate of 69%, while 89% of white students graduate from high school.
All of these factors lead to a apparent and systemic poverty cycle, with poverty rates distinctly higher and wages distinctly lower in Black, brown, and poor communities. And according to Forbes, the achievement gap between the white students and Black students and brown students is so impactful to the United States that closing the educational achievement gaps between children would stimulate the U.S. economy to grow by 5.8% by 2050.
There are not many opposed to mending this issue, but there are those who have come up with different solutions. For instance, school choice.
And basically, parents are able to select where they want to go to school, or where they want their children to go to school.
The arguments for school choice resemble those in favor of a free market economy. More choices will drive competition, which will inherently benefit the consumer. However, school choice often only benefits affluent students who have the money and resources to attend the best schools for them. In areas with extensive school choice programs like DC and Chicago, less affluent students tend to choose their neighborhood school, which is still often underfunded and overcrowded. The Trump administration presented school choice as their solution to the inequalities that we discussed. Do you believe that that's an effective solution?
No. We need to make serious, substantial reinvestments in the public schools in order to uplift the quality of education and to make the public schools really competitive across the board.
We need to deal with the $23 billion gap between schools with, between majority white schools and non-white districts. And we're never going to have true equity in America until the quality of education doesn't depend on your zip code.
I'm excited to see that, President-elect Biden is coming in with a focus on we need to reestablish our neighborhood schools. Education is a right. So if we are treating it that way, then we should, fund it that way.
In a terrible decision, the Supreme Court upheld the local property tax-based system of funding schools. And the problem is that in wealthier areas, the school systems can make a lot more money taxing property than can be made by, say, urban school districts in very poor areas.
Given the way that our country funds schools, which is based on local property taxes, there is a need for the federal government to step in and subsidize schools and poorer communities. And the federal government does that to some extent through Title I, but programs like that it is an urgent necessity that they're expanded. If we don't put in the work, the massive systemic work to fix our education system, the continued consequences to our democracy, to our society are devastating. A multiracial democracy requires everybody having a fair shot. And in this country right now, with our unequal education system, that is far from the case.
The cycle between socioeconomic disparities and education disparities leads and contributes to the opportunity gap and oppression of the impoverished, especially impoverished Black and Brown communities.
The new president and Congress must address these systemic problems primarily through prioritizing and funding our schools. Our students and citizens deserve better.